In this section, I'm going to talk about the basics of how spreadsheets work. Spreadsheets are a fantastic invention that make it really easy to do basic kinds of analysis in mathematics. With a CS 101 background, you've seen syntax and expressions. It's actually going to be very easy to pick up the basics of spreadsheets in just a few minutes. So that's what I want to do here. Spreadsheets were invented in 1979 by Dan Bricklin, and they became very popular. And then there was a program, Lotus 123, that was very popular at one time. And then with some very sketchy business practices, Microsoft took over with Microsoft Excel, and then that program is very popular to this day. Fortunately, the idea of a spreadsheet is not tied to any particular program. All of the different spreadsheet programs out there, you implement the features that I'm going to show you today, and really you could use any one of them. Also, there's a standard format, the XLSX format that I'm going to use today, and all the different programs now load that format. That's a Microsoft format. Just a brief editorial. Having your data in a standard format like that really has a lot of consumer benefits. It means that any vendor understands that you could take that you're not locked in to just that vendor. You could take your data and go to another vendor. And that pressure keeps the vendors on their toes. They have to have good features and good pricing, and really that's where progress comes from. I love that kind of competition. So just to mention a few big ones, there's the Google Docs website is free, and that does spreadsheets in the browser. There's LibreOffice is a program you install on your computer. It's a full Office suite that's free. And then more recently, Microsoft's OneDrive is competing with Google Docs. So any of those would work fine to do this kind of spreadsheet work. So for this section, I'm going to use this catnap example. And the catnap spreadsheet is going to be just storing and analyzing the data for a bunch of cats and looking at how much they sleep each day. So I will switch over to LibreOffice, which I'm going to use for my example, just to kind of walk through the spreadsheet and show off the main features. So here's the catnap spreadsheet. You'll see it's just a big grid. These individual rectangles are called cells. Each cell can hold a number or a string or a date or kind of anything. So I'll click on this one. That one has the string Alice in it. The other thing to notice is that each cell has an address. So here's the column B. You see the B up here. And so this is row 2. So that is B2. And if I click one down, that's B3, and that's B4. You can see the row numbers over here. So that sort of letter number scheme, like B3 or C7 or whatever, provides a nice addressing scheme. So I can address any particular cell in the whole grid, and I'm going to end up using that in a little bit. So right now, this is just raw data. There's just numbers and string. There's no computation, so I'm going to want to add computation to this. So I'm going to click down here, and first off, I'll show how you could just enter a number. So I could just type like 22 and hit return. So now I've just put 22 in that cell. To edit it, I'm going to double click to put the cursor back in there, and I'll move the cursor over here to the right, hit the delete key a couple times. So I'm going to try putting a computation in here. Say I want to add up this 10 and this 9, or using their addresses, I would say I want to add up B15 and B16. If the first thing you type is an equal sign, then that makes a big difference. That signals that the cell is going to have a formula in it. So I can say equal sign B15 plus B16. And then when I hit return, it just does the math. So it displays the 19 there. So you can see it's just adding the 10 and the 9. If I single click on it, it still just looks like the 19. But if I double click it, then it shows, oh, well, really, here's the formula that is going on inside of there. And you can see with the colors, it's trying to kind of show you which cells that's based on. If you're ever in this kind of editing mode and you want to get out, you can click this big X up here, and that just means like, yeah, stop editing. All right, so let me try putting a more interesting formula in there. So really what I want to do is I want to sum up this whole column of numbers. And so that's a very common thing to do with spreadsheets. So I'm going to type equals, saying this is a formula, and I'm going to type SUM, sum, and then a left parenthesis. So this looks a lot like the functions that we've done in CS 101. And then what I want to say is, well, sum up all of these. The easiest way to do that is to click down here on the 11 and just drag down to the 9 and then let go. And as I did that, you can see here in black and white, it put in B3 colon B16. So with the colon, that's a way of saying, oh, that range of cells. So starting at the B3, which is 11, down here to B16. So then I'll type the right parenthesis to close off the sum, and I'll hit return, and like there we go. It just computes the sum. So that's a whatever. That's a super common thing to do with spreadsheets. It's very nice. You can just add up numbers like that. So I'll just show you, like if I go to this 10 and I change it to like an 11 and I hit return, the sum updates automatically. So that's sort of what you want. I'll change it back to 10. So as I mentioned before, if you want to, right now it just looks like a 116. If I double click, it'll show me the underlying formula. And you can see with the colors, it's trying to sort of show us, oh yeah, you know, it's this rectangular region. Another thing that works is actually if you single click it, if you look carefully, up here at the top, it also shows what the formula is. But I don't tend to use that top area. I just tend to use the double click if I want to see what's going on. There's actually a famous bug that happened in the last couple of years, the Reinhardt-Rogoff research, where they had this economics research that showed something, and it turned out they just had a bug in their spreadsheet where they meant to type something like B3 colon B16, but they just had B3 colon B12. Like they were just leaving out a bunch of numbers, and it undermined their result. I think that's kind of a neat example because it shows you could have these famous economists with famous results, but the bugs that they make are just the same kind of bug that anybody could make. Alrighty. So let me show you also I'm going to put a label here. So I'll say this is total hours. So that's, you know, this is the cat Alice, and we've just added up. Okay, Alice had 116 hours across all those days. So a related feature is the ability to compute the average. That's going to look really similar. So I'm going to go here. I'll type equals, and then instead of sum, I'll type average. Average is just another function. There's actually a lot of functions built into spreadsheets, but sum and average are probably the two most commonly used. So I type the left parenthesis. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to click and drag down, let go, and then I'm going to type the right parenthesis, and that'll give me the average. So those are two very common things to do with spreadsheets. So the obvious thing you want here is well, okay, I've sort of worked out you know, for the Alice column, but really I wanted to do it for Stephen, Tallulah, and Nick. How do you do that? There's a great feature for this case. So I'm going to click in this upper left cell, and I'm going to drag over to the right. I'm going to let go. And then I'm going to go up here to edit, and I'm going to use fill right. Let's try it. Bloop. And what fill right does is it takes whatever you have at the leftmost and just kind of pastes it across the columns, but it changes it to work relatively, which is exactly what you want. So when it puts the formula in this column, it's going to use the C numbers. And when I put it here in column D, it's going to use the D numbers. So it just does, at an intuitive level, really exactly what you want. So that is a fantastic feature. The last thing I'll show you here is making a chart. So to make a chart, I want to grab just the data. So I'm going to click here on this title, Alice. I'm going to drag down to the lower right and let go. And then different programs have different features, but in LibreOffice, this is the Add a Chart button. So I'll click that. And then it's going to let me pick different types. I think I like the line type for data like this. So I'm going to say I want a line chart. There we go, finish. I'm just taking all the defaults here. Yeah, that's pretty good. So what we see, right, this is data of the amount of napping for all these cats. Well, obviously, the Steve cat is way out ahead, right? And then the other cats are kind of down here. And I like that, you know, graphically, right? That's one way of doing data analysis. You can see the data. And I like that you can also look over here at the numbers, right? So here's the Steve column, and we look oh, right, the total's the biggest and the average is the biggest. So the number, just looking at those numbers, we get the conclusion, and then the graph is sort of consistent. So I like that those two agree. It's a nice way of seeing the data. All right, so there's your very fast introduction to the basics of spreadsheets. So give it a try on the exercises.